He said, wake us I had me. I said, who's going to live way out there? The last I heard, there was $65,000 a lot. We could have got 4 for $100, but hindsight's wonderful. The coal miners, this is where you have to remember the coal miners' wives. I've been after this lady that she wrote the $3 Dreams and Coal Dust in My Veins. The other books that I phoned her twice and asked her to please write a story about the miners' wives. Now my mom got up at 5 o'clock in the morning, made my dad's bucket and his breakfast. He went to work the reserve mine, which you went by train. The train that took him there brought my brother back who was night shift. She had to have the big pot of water, heating it on the stove, kitchen stove, for him to get clean and scrubbed up, make his breakfast. He went to bed. Then she had the 3 kids, myself, my brother, my young sister, to go to school. She had to get us ready to go to school. And then she'd be doing washing and ironing. Then she'd have to go call the boy that was afternoon shift and make his bucket up and give him his lunch. And the train that took him brought my dad home. Now this went on in the good times, you see. And my mother always said it was wonderful because she had money in the bank. She knew the bank manager. Oh boy, coming all the way from Wales to know the bank manager, she was really thrilled. But that was wiped out in the Depression and gone a long time after. We hung around, I hung around the chums and I hung around the fire hall. And by the way, Stan's had an uncle that was a fire chief. I served with him quite a few years too. He's an old family man. I'm biting my tongue. I've got to. Anyway, I just want to say that it was a very, very happy childhood we had. And then, of course, the Depression. And I never said no. I never said no. Somebody would phone up, Albert, could you make some steps for me? Yes, I could. I didn't know what a step was, hardly, but I was making. And one day a woman was looking for a driver. And I said, you looking for a truck driver? She says, yes. I said, I'm a truck driver. She said, are you? I said, yes, well, come with me. Old Mrs. Aikenhead, if anybody knows the old families here, the Aikenheads. And Mrs. Aikenhead, she said, come with me, son. And she gave me $2, one to get 3 gallons of gas at the Acme Motors, and the other was to take up way up the Lake Road to Chambers' mine and give the coal orders to Mr. Chambers. And 3 ton of coal. He says, it's there. Old Mr. Chambers was an old family friend of ours. He's always chewing his pipe, and he says, what are you doing, kid? I said, I coal order you. Oh, well, there it is there, 3 ton, 3 ton. So I shoveled it on the truck, went down and went to the bakery, where Cowie Machine used to be. Porex Bakery was there. And I said to one of the bakers, where did this go? Back in the corner, kid. He said, back in the corner, dump it up there. So I shoveled it off. She gave me $1. And it was that big. It really was that big. I got another job and I worked for, I made $30. And I got this check and I went to the bank and I got $31 bills. The confidence in my mother's hand. Oh, God damn. Anyway, these 2 fellas, they'd come out from the old country and they were sitting in a Balmoral hotel having a nice quiet beer, and one said to the other, you know, Fred, he says, I'm running out of money. He said, well, so am I. He said, we've got to get a job. The guy the next day, but you guys looking for work? Yeah, go to number 1 mine. Where's that? Go to the corner and straight down to the mine. So they went in. So he said, I'll go in first. So he went in, the boss said, well, what do you want? He said, I'd like a job, sir. You're a coal miner? Yes. He said, how deep have you been? He said, 15 feet. He said, get out of here, you're not a coal miner. So he went out, he went past his friend, kill him deep, kill him deep. His friend went in, he said, well, what do you want? I'm looking for a job. Are you a coal miner? Yes. He said, how deep have you been? He said, well, I've been 15,000 feet. don't know, I was never on night shift. Anyway, I ended up hanging around the fire hall, and we knew more about the fire trucks than the firemen themselves. There was only 3 firemen, 3 drivers, and the chief. The chief lived upstairs, Chief Plankton. And we had, we were hanging around there all the time. And one day, one of the other, Stan's uncle, one of the other guys, get on the truck. There's a call come in. So we 3 kids got on the truck. And some of the volunteers couldn't get on. And they raised Cain, the chief. The chief said, well, he said, I'll fix that. So the next morning, he phoned me, Denny. Yeah, I said, yes, sir. He says, come over, I want to see you. So I went over and he says, take this paper home to your mother and get her to sign it. And the other 2 kids. So I took them all and we signed them. Now he says they can complain, you're now volunteer fireman. And I stayed with that and I went on permanent. And I spent 43 years in the fire department, ended up as chief. I've been retired 35 years. The government's mad at me. I was supposed to die at 64 in 6 months, and I
didn't. Any questions for Albert?
Tell him about the time that you fell off the roof of the fire on Ward Street. He's lucky to be here, actually. Very. Go ahead.
You really care?
I have no way to cut my lawn.
No. We had a bad fire downtown, and we were on the 2nd story, and the 2nd story consisted of a restaurant up there. And
Mrs. Meek's tea room. I'll help you.
You want to tell the goddamn story?
I got the 2 cards for
you. Anyway, this veranda ran the length of this building, and it was a good 75, 80 feet. And unbeknownst to us, it had burnt all the edges. And my chum was behind me, and the man behind her holds the hose down so you can handle a nozzle. And I said, hold them down, Bill. He said, I am. I said, no, you're not. And I just kept coming up. We didn't realize it. It was falling. And it flipped us off. We fell 30 feet, landed in the middle, and I could see all this mass burning, coming down. And I thought, well, that was a short life. But
I arranged for that to come back.
you damn well you would. Anyway, I was pinned. I had a big timber right across my face, and I thought it was gone. But anyway, there's a group of old miners, of course, that knew that sort of stuff, and they come running over, and Pete Maffeo was one of them, and they got this off and dragged us out and put us in old Stearman's drugstore, and that's an old store here, the old as Manson's. Real old. Anyway, we it was they packed us in and put us in the drugstore next door, and that was on linoleum. And this was January the 11th. Cold, bitter cold. And anyway, they said, you're going to the hospital. I said, no, I'm not. Yes, you are. I said, I'm not going to the hospital. I said, I'm going home. My mother looked after me. So they took me in the ambulance and took me home. My mother was used to looking after her. The kids were always getting hurt. The guys were getting hurt in the mine and everything else. She was as good a nurse as anybody. And so I thought I was doing fine until the newspaper photographer come. And as a lady, and she came in, she says, they just says a few scratches, you look awful. I think he sent her, I'm not sure. But anyway, that's it.